Okay, guys, come on. We've rattled on for 7 minutes. We're losing recording time.
Oh my God, you're recording. Okay.
Yes, I've been recording.
I'm ready.
What are you trying to say? Why are we standing? I just moved on. It's very real. Was I supposed to spend the rest of my life feeling miserable like a basic?
Why are you with Shirley and her cardigan? Why are you with me? I don't know why I'm still with you. I used to know, but I don't.
Basic Teen TV.
All right. Hey, guys. Welcome to Basic Teen TV. We're a weekly podcast talking about some 90s teen TV dramas. The first show that we have been discussing is Dawson's Creek, where we're coming to the end of season 4, you guys.
Damn it.
We're kind of in the stretch of it.
I never wanted to end.
So sad.
So my name's Melissa.
I'm Victoria.
I'm Cindy.
We're going to talk about episodes 16, 17, and 18. So the first episode 16, was called Mind Games. And where do you guys want to start?
I want to start by saying, since we have returned to viewing Dawson's Creek on Hulu as opposed to Netflix, now we have to sit through a million commercials of country versions of Nationwide and Fancy Feast Petites.
Oh, and pharma.
And I'm
a lot of pharma
sick.
ads.
I'm sick of the
Farmers
Fancy Feast
Insurance?
Petites.
Yeah, I actually can't remember the commercials on my Hulu, but that is actually
Nationwide is on your side.
Not a sponsor. But it does,
Good. We harmonize well.
that is actually my first note that I wrote down, that our last podcast recording, we were able to watch the episodes on Netflix. And Cindy, I don't know if you brought this news to us, that on April 30th, Dawson's Creek was going to be no longer on Netflix, which was all really confusing to us because we were like, they had just secured a deal to get Paula Cole's song back as the main theme song. And that only lasted for what, like 3 weeks, it felt like.
The song?
Yeah.
Or
And
like a
so
month.
It was just, or a month. Yeah. So it was just really confusing to us that we didn't understand like why they weren't going to.
Why you would go through the trouble.
Why we go through the trouble. Yeah. And then just stop it.
Maybe they had some other contract issues with
Dawson's Creek.
Yeah, or maybe they're the only people who were watching it was us, and then they were like, "We don't fucking
Like,
care.
yeah,
About,
that
we don't
just
care about
wasn't
those
worth it.
3 bitches."
So among beyond now having to go back to Hulu and watch commercials, but we also have to watch it in that like crappy square format. It's no longer widescreen for us.
and I feel like the quality on
and the
Netflix was better. Like
the sound, the audio was better, and
the picture was better.
Yeah,
They like remastered it for Netflix, and
Yeah.
on Hulu, it's just they took it straight from.
It's like watching it on your mom's VCR. You're like, what? Why is this?
Yeah. So that's kind of our gripe on Hulu, right? Commercials, shitty aspect ratio again, and just bad quality overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not the best viewing experience.
No. Come on, Netflix. We know you're listening.
Yeah. Totes.
Okay, so on to the storyline here. We have like 2 major stories that we want to talk about from this episode. Where do we want to start? With Jen stalking her therapist or Joey's lie coming out?
Let's start with Jen and the therapist.
Okay. So I was really confused.
Me too. I was like starting to get uncomfortable with the dynamic that we were seeing on screen.
Yes.
With how just the whole therapy sessions in general.
Yeah.
Because Jen is like asking him a lot of questions and she's trying to like get to know him. And then he always sort of diverts and goes back to her. And she's like, it's so interesting that every time I ask you something about you, you like turn it around and put it back on me. And it's like, bitch, you're in a therapy session. Like
this is about you, not about your therapist.
It's not that interesting. Like the therapists are literally not supposed to talk about themselves
Right.
or share anything about their personal life at all.
And even just how he speaks to her, it was almost feeling like sexual tension in a way that made me uncomfortable.
I was getting a creep vibe from the therapist. I will admit that.
Yeah, from the beginning he was a little creepy. I felt
He's got like a doughy head, which is just creepy in general on men. When you have like a soft, doughy face, I don't like it.
doughy face.
So Jen's kind of become obsessive about it, and she wrangles Jack into it, and they end up at some coffee shop, and Jack's like, why are we here? Why are we here at this particular coffee shop? We don't really know where Jen's therapy is, but we get the sense that it's some distance from Capeside. So this coffee shop that they're in is not convenient to where they live in Capeside. Like they're in the next town over or something. And so Jack's kind of like, why are we here? Why are we here? And Jen's like, I just don't understand my therapist, kind of, sort of. And I want to get to know him. And so Jen's brilliant idea is to stalk him. And she thinks that, like, if we, see what coffee shop he goes to or what coffee he orders or the books that he picks up in the bookstore, because they follow him to a bookstore, the books that he reads, are going to give her some clue as to who he is, or just find out more about him. And then Jack gets like, so you're telling me you have a crush on your therapist? And like, I don't know if this is a thing that happens. Like I've never been to therapy, so I don't know if I would maybe imagine that it can happen.
I could see how it could happen.
Where a patient develops feelings for their therapist because you become intimately involved with that person, right?
Yeah, and especially straight women going to male therapists because it's probably the first male they've ever spoken to. Yeah, and like the first straight male they've ever spoken to who isn't like a complete douchebag. So they're like, wow, this is intriguing.
This person's listening to me.
Hot.
He's listening.
Yeah, he's
to
like
me.
actually listening.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're paying him to listen to you. That's literally what therapy's for. You pay somebody to listen
Well,
to
men
you.
fall in love with strippers even though they're paying their strippers. That's how they're like confused.
Right,
All the wires get crossed.
I think it's the same thing like when men like fall in love with their female nurses or whatever because the nurse is like their caregiver.
Yeah.
And it reminds them of their
so
mother.
So what is that?
Exactly.
What is that? What is that syndrome called?
Florence Nightingale.
Well,
I think that's what it is.
Yeah, but just that whole idea or thing that can happen.
Yeah, no, I'm right. Florence Nightingale.
Oh, okay.
She was an English social reformer, statistician, and founder of modern nursing.
Okay.
So that's what it's called when you
when the patient falls in love with their doctor or their nurse.
Yeah,
so their caretaker.
Right.
Yeah. So Jen might be suffering a little bit from a Florence Nightingale situation. But
or just being a straight woman in society syndrome.
Well, she's also, she's in a position where she can open up to somebody and she trusts this man because he's a professional and she's paying him or somebody's paying him.
And he's got a doughy face. And I feel like doughy faced men are like
non-threatening, doughy face. And so now she feels this weird attachment to him because every other man she's ever dated is a douchebag. She's not even dating this guy, but every other man that she's
interacted with,
intimately involved with,
right, has either been this therapist or Jack, but Jack's gay, but the therapist isn't. So she's like, well, maybe. And then also, she's been trying to like get information out of him, and of course he won't share because his personal life is none of her business. So they follow.
And also, that's like would be an ethics problem, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, this whole episode is an ethics problem.
All of Dawson's Creek is an ethics problem.
It's an ethics problem and it's an HR violation.
Yeah.
All right. Well, so they eventually end up at a poetry reading.
Because they ran into him
They ran into him in the bookstore. Try as they might to try and stay inconspicuous, but they bump into him at the bookstore, and he tells them about a poetry reading that's happening the next day. And so Jack is somehow still wrangled into going to the poetry reading with her the next day. And it's apparently early in the morning. And turns out that the poet who is reading her poetry is the therapist's girlfriend. Is that what we're supposed to assume?
Yeah, significant other.
Okay, yeah.
And Jen has like a look of disappointment on her face when she realizes that they're an item.
An item, yeah.
Yeah, when she realizes that this 30-something-year-old man is not going to be interested in a high school girl.
That's his patient.
Yeah, once again, nobody ever talks about the age inappropriateness of
Everything.
yeah, like all right, she's got a crush on him, like people, like people have crushes on their teachers or whatever, but like, and yes, Pacey did sleep with his teacher, but I'm saying in general, but usually that's not acted upon and it's frowned upon because it's inappropriate. Jack was trying to sort of talk her off of whatever weird ledge she was on, and he was never like, hey, you might have some weird feelings for your therapist, but it's never going to happen because not only because he's your therapist, but because he's like 37. And
He's an adult.
and you're 17.
Yeah, and it's illegal.
That's never been mentioned. There's been a lot of teenagers going after adults and it not being
Addressed.
an issue.
Yeah, Dawson's Creek always leaves like the door cracked slightly for a possibility of something that's unethical, immoral, and illegal.
Yeah.
They just leave the door open slightly, like, there's a chance this could happen.
She's almost 18. It's not a big deal, right?
So Jen, I mean, I guess the resolution to that whole situation is that Jen sees her therapist with his girlfriend and, I don't know, resolves it within herself. She's like, okay, this guy's just my therapist. I need to stop stalking him. I need to stop trying to find shit out about him. Like,
Yeah, the girlfriend also is like, oh, are you guys high school kids? That's so cute. It's so glad that you like poetry. And then that snaps her. She's the only one who addresses the fact that they're children.
Yeah.
That they are children and the therapist and his girlfriend are adults. And that snaps her back into reality. She's like, oh, yeah, forgot about that part.
all right. So that takes care of that. So,
Oh, wait. One more thing.
oh, sorry.
Jen's going to therapy 3 times a week.
Yeah, that's a lot of
That
therapy.
is a lot.
I go like once a week, and sometimes I think maybe that's too much. I could like scale it back. to,
I
like,
thought
twice.
I thought standard was like once a week. Like,
Well,
especially if you're going through a tough time, once a week you have a check-in. 3 times a week.
Well, I guess it's like, but I don't think it's expected long term. I think it's like a principal mandate.
I was going to say, I feel like this,
problem.
right. I feel like this was, like a school ordered
Yeah, so it's like short term, 3 times a week until you get your
Shit together.
shit together.
Yeah, so like
Yeah, because there was something in another episode where he said the therapist said, I wrote it down. Hang on, where is it? Therapy was designed. This is actually what he says. Therapy was designed to include a minimum of 4 sessions a week. It was designed.
Yeah, I remember hearing that, and I'm like, I've never been asked to go to therapy that often. Maybe,
And it was designed.
maybe if you just like, like your partner just died or something, you're like really in it. But for normal,
A minimum
every-
of 4 times a week. So what's the max?
Every day.
I guess every day. Twice a day.
12 hours a week therapy.
Yeah, I mean, I think what Victoria said about it being kind of school mandated or school ordered is why she's going so often.
She's on the accelerated therapy.
She's on
Yeah.
early graduation from therapy.
yeah. So the bigger story in this episode was about Joey's lie that she told to Dawson. And I'm getting a little lost as to how Gretchen finds out. So
Oh, Gretchen. So Pacey is hinting to Gretchen that he wants her to like find somewhere to stay overnight on a Friday night or Saturday night, whatever. And, he wants her to like not come home. And then she was like, oh, you guys did it.
you guys banged.
You guys did it. You've been in like a good mood since you got back from that ski trip. You guys banged, and now you want me to like not come home so you can bang again. and then he was like, "Don't fucking tell anybody," because like she's real sensitive about it.
She's a bitch.
And
Just like don't mention it to anyone
Yeah,
else.
like she's gonna fucking rip my nuts off if you fucking say anything. And so then Gretchen comes around the house that evening to like stuff
Pick
like
up her stuff.
Yeah, her
Yeah.
toothbrush and her underwear and shove it into her purse. And I guess Pacey told Joey that Gretchen figured it out, and so then Joey pulls Gretchen aside and was like, please don't tell anybody. And she's like, anybody or Dawson? And she's like, everybody and anybody, including Dawson. And she's like, okay, fine. And then she goes over. Then she finds out that Dawson's parents are out of town for the weekend. So then she's like, why you fucking tell me your parents are out of town? Why don't you invite me over? Let's Netflix and chill. So they do that. And then they start talking about sex. And then he was like, well, he mentioned something about Joey and Pacey not doing it yet. And she was like, how do you know they haven't done it yet? And he's like, because I asked her point blank and she said no. And then Gretchen was like, oh God, Joey is a bitch.
I feel like Gretchen like throws a fit, like an unreasonable fit.
I was a little confused. I actually rewound that part when she got
I
upset
did
with him. I was like, wait,
too.
did I miss something?
Yes. No, I did the same thing. I was like, why is Gretchen so pissed at Dawson now? Or at least that's the impression she's giving Dawson. Like Dawson's like, what the fuck did I do? I'm just telling you like what I heard or what Joey told me and where I am in my own sexual experience. And now you're mad at me. I don't
now
understand.
You're leaving?
Well,
Yeah.
she said,
I don't understand.
He said something like, oh, I think he admitted to her like he had wished that the two of them could lose their virginity together and that he wished that she would just tell him if they had done it so that he could like move on. Like he could get that weird wish fantasy out of his head.
Which is not a great thing to tell your
right. So I
your
think she was
girlfriend.
offended by that because Joey lied and that if Joey had told the truth, they wouldn't be having this awkward conversation. And then 2, he's still admitting like, oh, I wish that like she realized then that he's still hung up on her in some ways. And she knew that was a possibility, but she thought it to not be true. And then she was like, oh, I misjudged the situation. She's like now realizing that she's playing second fiddle to Joey. And so then she like leaves.
But Dawson got a blowjob that on the boat, right? Like that counts as a sexual act,
Yeah,
and
but he
he's
didn't
acting
play
like a
not
little
have-
but
fucking
that's not
virgin.
sex.
It's not intercourse.
Sex means something so much different to these kids.
Yeah, I mean you can still have like butt sex and it's not you're still virgin.
Yeah, like
Because
I
you
remember.
have-
I do
because
remember.
there's no vagina involved.
I was gonna say I do remember. Like I do remember in high school, like me and my friends legitimately thinking that because we hadn't had the Webster's definition of sex,
vaginal intercourse.
thank you, vaginal intercourse, that we were
The Webster's definition of sex.
yeah, that we were virgins, like that whatever else we had done sexually like didn't count.
I mean, I didn't think of myself as not being a virgin until I had vaginal intercourse.
Well, I
mean,
mean, vaginal
same.
intercourse first before
You
any
did
of the
that
other things.
before all the other things?
I had vaginal intercourse before I even like kissed someone.
What?
Stop it. That's a lie.
No, but it was me and my we were both each other's first everything.
Yeah, you've
and
told us this story.
we didn't like try anything else.
There was no
first.
foreplay?
We just like went for it.
You just jammed it in.
Wow.
Stick it in.
And then I bled all over his
Yeah, you've told it.
dorm
Yeah,
room.
We don't need to hear it again.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't need to hear it
Yeah, I
again.
know. You
But
went-
yeah,
You've given
I
us the
wasn't
whole.
like-
You've given us the whole story in a
cried in the
previous episode.
shower.
Yeah. Yes, we know it.
Maybe this just isn't meant for me. But we didn't. I don't
You
think
just
we
need to
tried
relax.
a bunch of other things first. I think
I
that was the
tried-
first thing. Or I definitely wasn't trying like blowjobs and going down on people with other dudes first.
I mean,
you know?
I did all the other things before having
Oh.
sex.
Butt sex?
Well, except for that. No, I hadn't.
I mean, you went to Catholic school. I always heard that Catholic school girls would have butt sex because that would mean that they were
Still a virgin?
Still a virgin.
That could be
Is
true,
there
but
any
I
truth
was
to that?
I was not. That was not me. I was not that Catholic girl. Okay, I might have done all the other things.
And you're like, the butt's still off limits.
The butt was always off limits.
I'm a butt virgin for life.
So, anyways, back to Dawson's Creek.
We don't want to
Little
talk about
tangent
We don't
there.
want to talk about butt sex anymore. Blowjobs.
So the next day, we see Gretchen, like angrily sitting on the porch of her own house, and like Joey shows up.
Oh, she gives Joey what for?
She does give Joey what for. And I can't even remember what she says exactly to her. But it basically, I mean, if you guys remember, if you want to jump in and kind of remember exactly what Gretchen the riot act that Gretchen
She was basically
gave
like,
to
"Don't
Joey.
be a lying bitch. You're ruining your relationship with Pacey, and you're ruining my relationship with Dawson. Why don't you get your fucking shit out in the air?"
Yeah.
Except she said it differently than that, but that's basically what her intention was. And then Joey was like, "Mind your own business," and like stomped off.
Is that what
And
Joey sounds like?
she had a face that like the poop face. Like she's always like,
What are these noises?
I know, you know what Joey's face looks like. That's what
You know,
I'm doing.
everyone has a poop face. Just
And that's her permanent face.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
just like pinched in anxiety and butt pain all
Yeah,
the time.
she's
Just
like
ugh.
permanent turtle head that she's trying to suck back into her body. That's her face always. In a permanent state of turtling. I mean, that's a hell to like live in.
I mean, she's like literally like anal retentive. She's always trying to suck a poop back in. I'm like, girl, just let it out.
well, so she does let it out.
Yeah.
She goes to Dawson, and she tells Dawson comes forward and is truthful with Dawson and says, "I lied to you."
But that's later.
Well, what else happens in between?
Oh no,
then?
because she goes to him and he's like, she was ready to tell him, and he was like, "You know that question I asked you, that really personal question?"
Oh yeah, he starts to apologize.
I never
He's
should
like,
have
"I'm
asked you that.
sorry."
And he shouldn't have ever asked that question.
Right.
It's none of his
He
business. Like,
shouldn't
yeah,
have.
she's
So-
probably fucking her boyfriend, but it's none of your business, dude.
So we can give Dawson some points in apologizing for that.
That's true.
All right.
For the first time ever.
Right. Yeah. But then she go ahead and tells him, she's like, "Well, actually, I lied to you. We did have sex on this ski trip."
But that comes later that comes in episode 18.
But no,
With
I
the
thought
inheritance.
I thought it came here.
Mm-mm.
No, yes.
No.
Yeah, it came in this episode. I have it here. Dawson apologizes for asking.
It's 8.
Oh, and Joey still didn't tell him.
Yep,
Yeah,
she didn't
no.
tell him. It
She-
comes after the inheritance money.
Yeah, the
All right,
next
well, let's
episode
go.
when he offers her a thing, and then
All right,
she
well,
was
then
like, "Well, I'll take the thing, but you should know."
Well, let's move into episode
Well, wait, I have
17
one more
then.
thing to say about this episode.
Sorry, go
It's a
ahead.
very, very important
I
aspect.
can tell by
of
your
the
face that it's very important.
It's the one note she took. She's like,
I can see it in
she's
your-
I was like, I gotta get this out.
your
She's-
gritty-
she should be addressed.
She's turtling.
She's on the verge of laughter.
Yeah, like let me poop. I have to say this thing. Pacey, when they're having their little weekend together, Pacey and Joey, and they're like doing their little pretend homemaking life.
Mhm.
Pacey calls in an order for pizza.
Mhm.
And he's having problems communicating what he wants on the phone because I guess they don't speak very good English.
Apparently, they speak Portuguese.
That's what I wrote down. He's like, Gretchen, what? How do you say cheese in Portuguese? And I'm like, what Brazilian pizza shop are they ordering from in Capeside? Like,
It's not even Italian. It's not like how do you say cheese in Italian?
right.
It's Portuguese.
I mean, like, how is this a thing? I don't know. We live in New York. There are so many different types of people from all over the world that live here, have restaurants, have shops. So
And they all speak English because this is America.
rock flag and eagle, bitch. But I mean, when it comes to ordering pizza on the phone in New York, there's never really been an issue with English.
I've never known how to tell the person on the phone cheese in Portuguese.
That's
There's
never,
no
that's
fucking-
never been a thing.
Never been a need.
It's
Right.
never been a thing.
Brazilians aren't making goddamn pizzas.
Right. And if
It would be good.
And if
I mean, I would love to try it.
It probably would be good.
But
Yeah.
like,
what the
I just like the writers wrote this in to be like a funny thing, and I'm like, it's not relatable at all.
It doesn't make
so
sense.
it's not funny.
Yeah, why couldn't they just make it Italian? Like
Yeah, well, you know who like runs pizza shops for real? It's like this kind of guy,
like Rick.
not Brazilians.
Rick and Joey.
Yeah, it just didn't make any fucking sense.
I'm really glad. Thank you for that.
It was really important. I'm glad
Yeah.
that I got the
Or
turtle
maybe it
head
wasn't-
out.
Maybe
Super
it wasn't
important.
Brazilians. Maybe they were Portuguese from Portugal.
Maybe.
But also it makes no sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like real Italians, like from Italy, they don't open pizza shops here. That's not who's running pizza shops.
No.
No.
It's Rick.
It's like guys from Staten Island.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gonna open got my L&B Spumoni Gardens. Come to South Brooklyn. We got your deep dish. We got your Sicilian.
I don't know if they'd be serving deep dish in New York.
They got
Sicilian, sure.
Sicilian.
Sicilian?
At Ellen
I don't know
B.
about,
Spumoni
I don't know about
Gardens.
deep dish.
And Italian subs. Oh, I love a good fucking Italian
Yeah,
sub.
Some
Italian
calzones.
Sausage.
Calzones.
We got your
Meatballs.
You got your stromboli.
You get your sausage with peppers and onions. Yeah.
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 What was that?
That was my Brooklyn accent.
yeah.
All right, let's
Yeah.
move on. Episode.
Episode 17 was called Admissions. So this is the episode where everyone is finding out where they have been accepted. And I want to point out really quickly that this never happened in my school. Never were we getting notes
I know what you're gonna
handed.
say.
Yes, never were we getting handed notes to us in the middle of school to call home because a college admission letter had come home and our parents needed our permission.
I'm glad you brought
to
that up because
open
I was
up-
going to ask you guys.
Open
if
up the letter.
this was a
I'm like,
thing.
this never happened.
It was not a thing for me.
It was
either.
not a thing.
You got your college admissions packet when you got home from school.
when you got home from school.
And your mom tells you like, hey,
Hey.
something came in the mail for ya. And then you go, oh, man. That's how it went. And then you're like, I didn't get in. And she's like, damn it.
you're like, I'm not going to college.
Actually, my
Okay.
mom was probably not like, damn it. She was like, thank God, because I can't afford NYU.
No, not University.
University of New I can't afford goddamn University of New York.
She's like, you're going to community college.
So both Joey and Dawson get notes. And so they both call home. And what we find out from just those two simple phone calls is that Dawson did not get accepted into the University of New York Film School. But Joey did get accepted into Worthington College, which is the college that's her dream school, apparently. And she's talked about it in previous episodes, that Worthington is where she wants to go. So she's
Worthington that's not a real college, right?
I don't know. I've never heard
But
of
it's
it.
in Boston, she said.
But it's in Boston, yeah. And she goes home. Bodhi's back.
Yeah, I know.
Bodhi's back for this one episode.
Doing a grocery list.
Doing a grocery list for the B&B. So Joey comes home and she, obviously Bessie already knows because that's who Joey was calling. So they decide to throw her a big celebration party. And during that same day, that's when she also gets like a separate letter about her financial aid package. And apparently the success of the B&B after 1 year of, I don't know, financial reporting has deemed them capable of apparently being able to afford college. So she doesn't get the financial aid package that she was hoping to get. So Joey's like bummed this entire episode.
Yeah, pouting.
But
Yeah, she was expecting to get a full ride, and instead they were like, well,
Looks like you're making money, so...
Yeah, your family has to kick in $15K.
right.
And she was like, that might as well be $8 million. My life is over.
Yeah,
I'm
and
not
she's like
going to
yelling
college.
at the counselor or whoever she was talking to
I
about
think
it.
that's her, like her high school.
guidance
Guidance
counselor. The guidance
counselor.
counselor is like, I'm just reading you the fucking paperwork. Dad.
Yeah.
I don't.
And the guidance counselor is like, you can take out a student loan. Like everyone's doing that. No one can actually afford college, so you take out a loan.
Yeah.
And Joey's like, what the fuck are you talking about? A loan? So I'm going to be in debt the rest of my life? And it's like, yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Welcome to being an adult. You have fucking debt sometimes.
She's like, I don't want to start out my life with all this debt. And I'm like, okay, so just live in Capeside with
and
your,
don't go to college
with
then.
your sister for the rest of your life.
Yeah, those are your options.
Okay.
This is America.
But she doesn't want to cancel the party because everyone's already been invited and everyone already thinks that she's going and that this is a happy occasion. So she just puts on a brave face, I guess.
Well, she does pout through the whole
Yeah, she
Right.
the
has
whole
that
barbecue.
turtle head face the
Yeah.
whole time.
Yeah. The other, and we can get into like how that all unfolds. Because one of the other major stories, or at least the one that we're going to talk about, is Jen. So Jen's gotten into a whole list of schools. One of
Which
which
was kind of surprising.
yeah,
I didn't
she like
expect that.
shows she like shows up at school and she has like all these packets from all these schools that have accepted her. And one of those schools is not to be confused with NYU, is the University of New York. And
NYU's lesser known cousin.
Yeah.
the redheaded stepchild.
University of New York.
The redheaded stepchild to NYU.
UNY.
Yeah. And Jack is really pressuring her to go to UNY. Because he's just really excited. They both have decided they want to either go to the same school or go to schools that are close by so they can, remain close to each other and,
They could be roommates.
And, support each other through their freshman year. And so Jack is just kind of like unknowingly pressuring her, not really understanding Jen's struggle, which is her family. Her family's in New York. A lot of, now that she's had...
Her ghosts are in New York.
Right. All these ghosts of New York are...
that haunt her from when she was 12 years old, running around the city.
12, 13, 14.
12-year-old crack whore, apparently, that she used to be.
Yeah. So that's Jen's whole thing, is just struggling with, does she want to go to school in New York or not? And Jack really wants to, and Jen's like, I don't know, all these ghosts. So Dawson finds out that, or Dawson comes in, Joey is inside her house and she's crying. She's got her head in her hands.
But Dawson gets admitted during this cookout. Dawson's parents come and they're like, here, we got something for you.
We got
and
a big fat envelope for you.
Looking good. And Dawson got accepted into the University of South Carolina.
Is that
no? He does
I know.
UCLA,
it's Southern California.
Oh, is it? Oh, USC.
But USC, and I kept thinking,
University
remember?
of South Carolina.
USC. That must be the University of South Carolina. They have great film programs in South Carolina. It's known for film. The state of South
whole
Carolina.
state of South Carolina.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, right. I wrote it down. Dawson accepted into USC.
So he's all happy, and then
he's
Joey
all happy. And Joey
storms off.
Exit stage left, exit stage right, whatever.
Yeah, she's like, I gotta take a shit, and she leaves.
Yes, it's really starting to bother me now.
She's like, I'm just gonna go poke it back in. I'll be right back.
Yeah. I don't know why that got me.
Poor Joey.
I'm just gonna go shove this turd back into my butthole. BRB.
She's having a real struggle. And Cindy and Victoria are talking about turtling.
She's like, I gotta keep this facial expression up, and the only way to do that is to shove this turd back into my butthole.
She's like, I was shit in 6 weeks, so I'm not fucking starting now.
I don't know why this is getting me so much.
All right, as the one who's gonna try and keep this train on the tracks, Dawson walks in on Joey. She's got her head in her hand. She's crying. She's bawling her eyes out.
She's on the toilet.
Dawson's like, "What's wrong?" And she's like, "I didn't get the financial aid. I'm not gonna go." Blah blah blah. And so immediately, in Dawson's idea, this is right there in the moment. He's like, Mr. Brooks said that I should do something good with this money, and this is it. So he plans to he offers Joey $15,000 of the inheritance that Mr. Brooks left him, so Joey can go to school. Joey immediately rejects it. She's like, I can't take your money. It's too much. It's too much. And he's like, just consider it, please. Just think about it. She's like, fine. Let me finish turtling. Okay. I'll think about it.
I mean, it
would be a very weird. I mean,
that's weird.
That's way too much.
It's way too much, and especially given their history. But any friend, I wouldn't accept $15K from you guys, and we don't have a weird dating history. But it's just
it's a lot.
Yeah, and then you
to accept from a friend,
and even if you say no strings attached, there's always strings.
Yeah, because eventually the other person will probably need $15,000 at some point in their life. So there might be an expectation that they'll get it back in installments. And then if you're broke, you'll just never pay it back.
Yeah, it's just a thing that then they can
you hang over your head.
Over
right,
you.
Right. So it's...
And then I would feel guilty. I would carry it around forever. The fact that I owe someone $15,000.
Yeah. I mean, So I don't know. I mean, at this point, she's rejecting the offer. Dawson's just asking her to reconsider. So, I mean, I honestly can't remember what happens next until we get to the end of this episode.
Yeah, nothing. It was a fluffy
It
episode.
was a fluffy episode. So can we cut to the end of the episode?
Yeah.
Because this is
Yes.
where what I thought happened in the last episode happens now, where I thought that Joey was going to go to Dawson's to definitively accept or reject the offer. But what she does is she goes to Dawson and tells him that her and Pacey had sex on the ski trip. I thought it was really odd timing.
Yeah, it was confusing. Yeah,
she just needed. She felt guilty. Everyone made her feel guilty about it. So she's like, apparently I have to fucking tell you this thing
right now.
Yeah. So she's like, I'm just gonna have a tiny little shit, and I'm gonna tell you.
I'm gonna let a little out.
I'm just gonna let
to
one
relieve myself, just like one tiny little
one
pellet.
turd out, and then I'm gonna keep the rest.
Oh my God, this is gonna be a thing now.
And I'm gonna tell you that we banged, Pacey and I, and then he was like, oh, okay. And he's like, well, you can still have the money if you want it. And then she was like, oh, okay. She accepted it, right?
She did accept it because at the end, I think at the very, very end of the episode, he hands her an envelope.
With like a cashier's check.
Yeah, and she takes
just
it.
like a wad of 20s. He was like, first you have to dance. Anyway, sorry, bad joke. Go ahead.
Okay, I
Wait, what was that?
I know. It's like
Like
a stripper.
Like a stripper, yeah.
Oh, wouldn't that be so funny if when men went to strip clubs, instead of singles, they had cashier's checks?
They're like,
and they like stuffed cashier's checks into like their
G-string?
under. Yeah,
I got this.
that would be so fun.
They're like, I have a bank check, so you know it's not gonna bounce, baby. Why don't you bounce? Bounce.
What?
Bounce.
I know.
Bounce.
Oops. All right.
All right, moving on.
Moving on.
All right, so she accepts the money. All right, next episode.
Next episode, episode 18. This episode is called Eastern Standard Time, which confused both me and Cindy.
I didn't realize that was the title.
I didn't realize that
episode.
was the same. I
thought
didn't either.
Hulu was reminding me
Like what
that
time zone
I
you're
am,
in?
Yeah,
That
I'm on Eastern.
I'm on Eastern Standard.
You're like,
And
thanks.
I was like,
I know.
thank you.
I know where
Thanks for the reminder. I was
Yeah.
like a little confused earlier today.
I was
but
I was so confused when I saw that. I'm like, is that the name of the episode? All right, I'm gonna write it down, but I'll check in with you guys when we start recording
was the
here.
name.
But
Oh,
that was the name of it.
I go on the Dawson's Creek wiki page after I watch to get
To confirm.
to get the crib notes.
So this episode, I think the main story is Jen and Joey's day trip to New York City. But I think what we want to get out of the way first are the two like shit stories, which are Dawson and Gretchen go on a random road trip and end up in some strange town called Willoughby. Like-
Willoughby, Maine.
They drive all the way up to Maine.
That's a long drive.
From Massachusetts?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's like
I guess so.
5 hours.
Yeah, I think she said that they were on the road for like 6 hours and then they get a flat. So they have to walk into this podunk.
Because Dawson doesn't have a donut, of course.
I
Why
thought,
would
you
he?
know what I thought was really strange is that all of a sudden Dawson drives like a pretty nice Jeep Wrangler. I'm like, where did he get
Yeah.
this car?
Yeah, where did he get that car?
Yeah.
And it
I-
doesn't have a donut in
Yeah,
the
he doesn't
trunk.
have a spare. He's like, we're going to go on a road trip, but I don't have any tools or any money.
And if
or-
a disaster
or-
happens, then I
or
guess we're
s-
just fucked.
Or a spare tire.
A spare tire, nothing. We don't have any food. We don't have any water. That's cool. Let's just go. Because I think Gretchen wants him to be a little more spontaneous and less uptight. So he's like, let's just do it. YOLO. And
And see what happens.
so what happens is they get a flat and they have to walk into town. And it's like a one-horse town. And
And all sorts of shit happens. I mean, I don't think we need to get into it, you know. Like,
No, my
yeah.
main takeaway was that so they couldn't get this issue resolved. So Gretchen is like waiting for Dawson to sort
Man
of like
up.
man up, take control of the situation and figure it out.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, I just don't know what to do. So we'll start a fire here
So they
on
end
the
up
beach.
Right, they end up on a beach.
And she's like really turned on by this though.
because he's built a fire.
yeah, because he's done like a caveman thing and he built a fire.
This is so insane to me.
Meanwhile,
like
they're gonna
she
have to
wants to
sleep-
make love. That's what she said to him. She's like, No, I can't find my note again. Oh, yeah. So I wrote, where's my quote? I have a pull quote.
Is it on the next page? You
No.
only have one page of notes.
She said something along the lines of, I want to make love to you so, so much. And I've just like, what is Gretchen's problem? It's really so, she said he's so sexy. What is sexy about a man who blows his tire, doesn't have a donut, can't figure out that they should like walk to town and use a payphone and call his parents? Just like call your parents to come pick you up. This is not a huge issue. So she wants to like make love to him because he built a fire and he resigned himself. He's like, oh, I popped my tire. So I guess I just resigned myself to like sleeping out on the beach tonight, babe.
Yeah, just in our clothes because I didn't bring a sleeping bag either.
Yeah. And we're not sleeping in the car. We're just going to like sleep out here
In the sand.
next to the car.
I hope you don't mind sand in your vagina because that's what's going to happen next.
It's sexy,
that
right?
doesn't happen next because they don't have sex.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
I think
she like Dawson thinks they're gonna bang, and he's ready. They've both said "I love you" to each other, and they think Dawson thinks they're gonna bang. And I think prior to that, or maybe it was even the conversation in previous episodes where he's keeps bringing that whole thing up about how he thought that his first time would be with Joey, and so now that he's like found out that Joey's had sex, he's like, I just need to let it go. I just need to let it all go. And so he thinks that they're going to bang. And so they're lying on the beach and Gretchen stops him and she's like, I don't want to, I want to make love to you so much, but I don't want to make love to you like this, where, Dawson is on this mission to even the score with Joey. And Gretchen's like, no, you're not going to use me like this. Like, it's going to be when we both love each other and it's because we want to make love to each other, not because you're trying to prove something to yourself or trying to prove something to other people.
But when is she going to know that that's not the case? Because he's already put it out there. So, like, what's going to happen that's going to make her get that out of her head?
I mean, that's a good question. I mean, maybe because in her head right now, it's just like the immediate reaction that Dawson's having. Like, he just learn that Joey's had sex, and so now like immediately he wants to have sex, and so Gretchen's like, nope, not yet.
To wait 2 more weeks, and
You're
then
not gonna put your P in this V.
You got to get the car fixed.
yeah, first you gotta fucking get the car fixed, and then maybe we'll talk about it. You have to fucking get me home. How about that? Because right now we're stranded in Maine.
It just that whole scene didn't make sense. He's like, well, maybe I can get my parents to wire me money. Guys. Walk into town, use a payphone, call someone you know, ask them to come get you, and bring a spare.
Yeah.
Problem solved. They're just like living now in Willoughby, Maine.
Yeah, they're just
and they're
like-
like, I guess this is our life now
Yeah, we're
because
just-
we got a flat tire. So
We're homeless on the beach.
I can't figure out this problem.
All right, that storyline was dumb.
That storyline was
So
dumb.
stupid.
The other dumb storyline was Dawson and Drew.
I don't understand this one at
Pacey
all.
and Drew.
Oh, Pacey and Drew. Right, Pacey and Drew.
You're
Sorry.
supposed to be the one that's keeping this train on the tracks.
I know. I wrote it down
All right,
wrong
so
too. Even
it was senior skip day, so everybody was out. But for some reason, Pacey and Drew decided to go to school today.
all the hoodlums who weren't doing their schoolwork they couldn't participate in senior skip day because they had to catch up on quizzes and tests and shit like that. So Pacey's in school taking his test so he can try and graduate on time. Drew's there. Why is Drew there? For the same reason?
Yeah, because he's also a prick.
Yeah. So Drew, being the provocateur that he is, tries to, get into Pacey's head about like, oh, while your girl's out in New York City, you're stuck here. I wonder what she's doing. And of course, Pacey falls for it, as I thought he'd be smarter than that. So he ends up skipping the last half of school as Drew suggested. And they go to some bar, which is, according to Drew, right next door to the community college, which is everyone is assuming that's where Pacey's going to go. And they proceed to get drunk and like start playing poker in the bar.
Yeah, they have like fake IDs or something.
Yeah, and Pacey's like up big. He's like won a shit ton of money. And then like the owner of the bar shows up. I don't know.
Pacey has a fake ID from Rhode Island. And the owner, that's the owner, right?
Right.
He's like, what road did you take to get here? And Pacey's like, Chesapeake.
To the Sam Adams.
To the Chesapeake.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Chesapeake. That's south of where, I mean, that's just like a bad, why are you pulling that out of your ass, Pacey?
Well, so to prove the bartender's point that they're underage, they shouldn't be in there. And so they get the cops called on them. And like one of the like scenes that we see is like Drew like puking his guts out on the side of a cop car. Pacey's in the back seat. And so apparently, you know, cops looking out for other cops, they call in Pacey's brother, and they have I'm getting really upset. I get upset with the way that they
all out.
flip-flop between the relationship between these two brothers. It's like one moment they're really there for each other and we think that there's like a true healthy relationship forming between these two, but then again we see Pacey throwing the gay jokes at his brother, and in this scene we see Doug, you know, adding to the list of ways that Pacey is a failure. Doug is like, oh, so you're gonna fail at school, you suck at this, and now you're an alcoholic, or now you're just a drunk. And Pacey like goes off the rails. And
yeah, I mean that it's unnecessary because that's what teenagers do. They drink. They like get fake IDs and go to bars. It doesn't mean that you're like set for life. Like that's your like
destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just,
I mean,
it's
I
just
just
like
really
a thing that kids do.
I just really thought that
And adults.
Doug might
adults.
show up with a little more empathy than what he did, you know? And so my whole point is like, I hate the flip flopping that the writers are doing with the
like,
relationship.
how are we supposed to
How are we
feel?
supposed to feel about these two brothers? You know, do we like them or do we hate them? Like, what do we like Doug? Do we hate Doug? I don't like the back and forth.
The
that they're
dynamic,
doing.
it
It's not
flip-flops.
consistent. Yes, I hate the inconsistency with these two.
Yeah, their relationship hasn't like evolved or matured at all. And there, even when there's moments where it seems like they have a breakthrough and like maybe they like understand each other better, that just gets disregarded.
Right. Yes.
Yeah, and they just go back to like being the brothers that like pick on each other.
Yeah. That's the part that like pisses me off. I'm like, it's annoying is what it is.
So I didn't really understand this storyline so much, other than when they got to the bar, Drew made some comment about, oh, we're right next to the community college, and if like you end up at the community college, then you're gonna end
up here
at this bar like these people, and it was kind of like a towny rednecky bar. So I was like, is Drew like doing Pacey a weird solid, but in a weird way, just being like trying to encourage him to like buckle down and get his shit together and go to college, but go to a real college, but doing it by having him skip school on the day that he was supposed to be fucking getting caught up on his shit and going to a bar and drinking a bunch of tequila. I'm like, what is the point?
Yeah,
of
as soon
this?
as they sat down at the table, they were like 3 rounds of tequila shots.
Like straight out of the gate.
Yeah.
He was just like, give me all the tequila.
I also didn't know that Drew and Pacey even knew each other, really.
Well, yeah. I mean, they
know each other, but I didn't know that they like.
Well, they're like frenemies. So
yeah,
I think
they are frenemies.
I think in the absence of all of the other friends, they were like,
All right, well, you're here.
yeah. He's
So-
like, oh, well, I guess we'll go to the bar together.
Well, and this is the point I was trying to make before. Is like, you know, Drew was trying to like provoke Pacey, you know, with certain things that he was saying about Joey, and like everyone's on a skip day and you're not. You know, let's just like ditch the rest of school. You know, so and this is what we were saying also off mic before we got started, was like that this was like
Off
to me
mic.
to me the story of Dawson and Gretchen and Pacey and Drew were just like fluff for the show. They needed to fill in the 45 minutes because the main crux of the episode, if we want to move on to it now, is Jen and Joey's trip to New York City.
yeah, so they take their skip day and they take the train down to the city.
Which I had a little bit of an issue with,
Logistics?
Yes.
Okay.
Joey and Jen.
40-year-olds talking about logistics.
Well, we live in New York, so I was just thinking about this. They arrive into Grand Central. The only trains that go into Grand Central are Metro North, no Amtrak. Does Metro North go to Massachusetts?
I mean,
I don't think so.
yeah, I think that.
I didn't think so either. That would be an Amtrak thing, which means they would arrive in Penn Station,
yeah,
not
but
Grand Central.
Penn Station is garbage, so they.
I was going to say,
I know, they want it
Grand
to look like
Central-
iconic.
Grand Central is iconic. Like, as a Texas girl watching this in high school, I'm not going to know Penn Station. I probably didn't even know Grand Central, but
As a New Yorker, I was like, this doesn't make fucking sense.
But knowing what I know now, I would, as a young kid watching this on TV in high school, Grand Central is way more picturesque than
What do you
Penn
mean?
Station.
Penn Station's beautiful.
I mean, the new Penn Station is
Moynihan.
Moynihan.
Moynihan is nice.
It's gorgina.
Wait, what is
Gorgina.
what is Moynihan?
Moynihan's the new Penn
The new
station.
the new Amtrak train hall. It's beautiful.
Okay,
Moynihan almost feels too good for us. Like we don't deserve it. All the vendors in Moynihan are really nice and upscale, and it's just like
Yeah, next
it's
time you're
clean.
Come on, this is
It's
New
so
York.
clean.
It's Manhattan. I mean, yeah, Penn Station. I always got so creeped out in Penn Station.
Penn Station is a shithole.
It's
Yeah.
a homeless shelter with trains.
Yeah,
And a Dunkin' Donuts.
yeah. But anyways, back to. I mean, so this is why logistics aside,
I understand
we
they were
have
just
to-
like
exact. Yeah, we have.
it's an iconic
It's-
train station, but it's wrong.
It's wrong.
And it
just to
bothered
let
me.
just to let all of our listeners know. But anyways,
You're welcome.
so Jen has put up or has told Joey that the reason she needs to go to New York is to meet with the new meet with someone in admissions at the
University of New York.
the University of New York.
Not NYU.
And there's a really cool
UNY.
montage when they arrive in New York, like a fast-paced montage of the city. It was really cool. It was like street signs and like people biking and like
Well, it's just like every
lights.
other New York City montage.
Yes.
Yeah, they're just like,
Yeah.
busy bustle.
Yeah. But the real reason Jen is coming to New York is to meet with her dad. So I don't think we talked about it. But, throughout these kind of 3 episodes, Jen has been struggling with kind of really figuring out why she was shipped off to Capeside. Like kind of what was the catalyst moment for her to be sent off. And I guess this whole time she's kind of been thinking that it's been the way that she acted, like, having sex when she was 12, which is what we learned.
It's crazy.
I thought I think up to this point, we kind of all thought that she was maybe 14 when she had sex for the
And
first
doing
time
drugs
and doing
and,
drugs.
like-
But it was actually, she had sex for the first time when she was 12.
That's crazy.
That is crazy.
I can't wrap my head around
So
that.
she's kind of been thinking that this whole time that her out of control behavior is what sent her to New York, which I think is partly true, but in her head there's something else that has happened. Like before that, she had all these fond memories of her family, even these really fond memories of her and her dad hanging out. And so she is really coming to believe that there's something else going on, that it wasn't just merely the way she was acting.
And her therapy sessions with Doughface
Yeah.
is helping her get there.
Right.
Yeah, she's having like a little breakthrough with Doughface.
With their dough-faced therapist.
But does she repress these memories?
But she's repressed these memories because, yes, I think, like I said, we hadn't discussed it in previous episodes, but she comes to Drew because I guess we're coming to realize that what happened between them, we haven't ever really known. And Drew has told her, like, the last night that you were in New York City, you were really upset. We hung out, we started drinking, and we were in your bedroom and we were starting to, like, fool around, and your dad walked in on us and kicked me out. And this is like one of the few times that we've seen Drew's soft side, because Drew is all butthurt because he was like, I actually, had feelings for you, Jen, but you were just using me that night. You were using me to get at your dad. And Jen's like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, don't apologize to
But
him.
we've been led to believe that they had banged in the past, but this story implies that they never actually did.
Or maybe they did Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, because then she was like, oh, well, you know, we kind of like had a like an awkward conversation. We like admitted that maybe we had feelings for each other, but I don't think you were really into it. But then we started to fool around, and then your dad came home, and she was like, oh, so I was just using you to like
Instigate my
to get at my dad. So I don't think they actually ever did hook up.
Also, what we kind of learned is that Jen has suppressed this memory so much so that she can't remember it.
Well, she was also really drunk that night. And they did drugs, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, they implied they like went
when they were 12.
They went to like the East Village and got picked up the good stuff or something.
Right, as 12-year-olds.
Yeah, they got like some blow or some weed or something.
We shouldn't be laughing. But
I know, but who's selling weed or blow
to a 12-year-old?
12-year-old. I mean, I'm sure it happens.
I mean, 12-year-olds in New York City might look totally different from 12-year-olds from the Midwest.
I mean, she was talking about how she got into like nightclubs and stuff. Joey asked Jen later because all right, so it happened. There was one weekend she was like recounting this story that she hated coming to Capeside to visit Graham's, and there was one weekend that she was in the cab, her and her mom, and they were on their way to the train station to go to Capeside, and she didn't want to go, and so then her mom was like, "Fine, take a cab home, and don't come with me." So then she was like, oh, I spent the weekend just wandering the city. And Joey's like, where did you sleep? And she's like, well, one day I slept in the park.
In the park.
And then I fell asleep
in some garage.
And she's like, I fell asleep in the VIP room of some club.
Yeah.
And I'm like, who's letting 12-year-olds into the VIP room?
Yeah.
Who's letting 12-year-olds into a club? And how's a 12-year-old getting in a VIP room? Ugh, gross.
12-year-olds look the same regardless of where you are in the country.
Yeah, I don't care how much.
It's a baby.
Yeah, I don't care how much makeup you've put on and what kind of push-up
It's
bra
a
you're wearing.
12-year-old. 12-year-olds are, what is that, first grade?
No.
Wait, what's...
It's like 7th grade.
Yeah, 6th, 7th grade. Yeah, 7th grade. Yeah.
Like actively going through puberty.
Right.
But not done yet.
Right.
Not even close. I mean, you're not fooling anyone as a 12-year-old. Like, I can tell you're 12.
Yeah.
You're not even like a teenager. You're not like a young woman. You're a child.
But that whole revelation, that whole story that Jen tells Joey happens after they attempt to have dinner or lunch with her dad. So like, they arrive in New York and, Jen has not fooled Joey. Joey's like, we're really not here to see this admissions person at the school, at the university, right? And she's like, no, I need to see my dad. So they show up at his office and Joey is like, Jen just got accepted into the University of New York. Isn't that so great? And her dad's like, yeah, that's great. We're going to go out and celebrate. We're going to go to lunch.
He cancels the rest of his plans.
He cancels the rest of his meetings.
Reservations at the West Side Grill. That's where you take your daughter for a celebration.
It was a fancy place.
I know, but
it had
before
tablecloths on the tables.
Before I saw that it was fancy, I was like, the West Side Grill.
He's not taking her to the Chelsea Diner, or
like Capitol Grill. Capitol Grill's a super fancy place. It doesn't have a super fancy name.
And it was one of those businessman lunch places because he walks in and he's like
knows
shaking
everybody.
hands. He's like, "Oh, how's it going? You close a deal.
Tell Hugh that I'm here.
Yeah, he'll know what to bring.
He'll
us.
know what to order."
I was just taken aback at first by the name. I was like, "You're taking your daughter to a diner?"
I mean, any time that you have the word grill in the restaurant, that implies it's a super fancy place.
Really?
Hello, I just mentioned Capitol Grill.
Oh, to me that implies that it's like a diner or a chain.
No, I mean,
cancel
not,
the rest
not
of
always.
my day. I'm taking my daughter to Applebee's.
Yeah, that's the vibe that I got.
We're going to TGI Fridays.
TGI Fridays, baby.
So they show up to this restaurant. I do want to kind of mention this because it kind of creeped me out a little bit. The monologue that her dad goes on about New York City.
It was so gross.
It was gross,
really
right?
disgusting.
And the eye contact that he maintained with her the whole time.
Yeah.
Well, because he's maintaining it with Joey. Because Joey is like, why do you love New York? Or what surprises you about New York every day? Because he said something like, every day I'm surprised by this city. And she's like, oh, well, what surprises you every day? And
he goes I am on this, opposite. Like, nothing surprises me anymore.
And he goes on this monologue about how New York City is like having a love affair. And I will say this, I kind of related to that because that's how I've described New York City.
Me
like
too.
When I first arrived here in New York, I was like, I love, even before I arrived here, to live here. I took summer school here. I fell in love with the city. And then I was like, I know I'm coming back here to live and work. And I did that. And I came here and then I got viciously let go from my job. And so it was like the worst part of New York City that I experienced. But when I moved back to Texas, I was like, I'm going to come back to this city because I love New York. I have a relationship with this city.
I will definitely agree that it is like being in a relationship, but
Yes.
It's an abusive relationship.
Like a toxic relationship.
Yeah, New York is a toxic relationship. This is like not a healthy place to live. It's really expensive. It hurts your soul. You don't have a lot of like room to spread out, and it's like hard to get outside and do things in nature.
I still think that
And it traps you here because New York feeds you. They're like, remember what it was like in the beginning when we first met? And you're like, yeah, I remember that. And it felt so good.
What's kind of funny, that is like the soft tone or the soft voice that her dad was using when he was
I know, it
describing
was
New
so
York City
gross.
to Joey. And yeah, and it grossed me out too. But as much as I wanted to like relate to what he was saying, because yes, I believe that when you live here, you're in a relationship with this city, and whether you love it or hate it or find it abusive, you're still in a relationship with this city. I still maintain a little bit of this romantic ideal of New York, which is, I believe, why I'm still here, because I think,
well, yeah, that's what all toxic abusive relationships
we're-
are. You
but I
remember what it was like in the
We're
beginning.
all still here.
I will
know.
honestly admit that I personally do not feel that I have experienced a toxic relationship in New York City or an abusive relationship in New York City. But that's just me.
Well, I just say that because it is such a difficult place to live comfortably.
I mean, that is true. I mean,
It's
I will
hard
agree
here.
with that. Like, you need to be like uber successful to live here. And I will say that I am not uber successful right now, but I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. I can hold my own here. But
Everything that man said in his little monologue was so far from the truth for me, besides the relationship aspect.
Well, it was his truth, but
It was his
But
truth.
just I mean, I guess for me, it was like the way he was saying it and just like looking into her eyes.
Yeah, it
and
was like
he
sexual.
He said the words like, "Oh my God, I'm in love with you." And like looking straight into Joey's eyes. I'm like, oh God.
Ugh.
And Joey's like,
Dude.
and they pan the camera back to her and she's kind of like doing that like half size smile that she does. And I'm like, Joey, this is gross.
Well, she pooped earlier, so she's like feeling good.
yeah, it was like a little side smirk. Like she's like, well, I just farted. I just let out a little fart.
Meanwhile, Jen is like on the verge of tears.
Yeah, she's like, my dad's a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
she's like, he's a fucking creep. But we learn later why, and that.
Which I have a lot of questions.
Yeah,
God.
but that
I'm a little
that
confused.
speech that he gave to Joey is a little more poignant then, because he was like, New York is like a lover, and it's like in the beginning
Oh,
it's
he
like a
does say that,
honeymoon.
doesn't he? Yes.
It's like a honeymoon, and then you know you have your moments, but you always come back, and you're just in love. And he's staring straight at her, and she's like blushing and like looking away, and then she's like, oh well, that's a very interesting.
That's a good answer.
Very interesting
the
point of
question.
view. Yeah. Meanwhile, Jen's like, "Fucking hate you, I'll fucking kill you." And
So that's when they end up on some like random rooftop. We don't even know how they get up to this rooftop, but that's where Jen tells the story about her like living on the streets for the weekend, basically, and like, but then they part ways. Jen's like, okay, I really need to go see my dad. Like, I need to do what I came here to do. And so Joey's like, okay.
And I needed her to do that too. Because at this point, I'm like, what is the issue?
Exactly. I wanted to know what the deal was. And so Joey's like, okay, train's at 11. Like, I'm going to wait for you. And
the Metro North train from Grand Central to Massachusetts
which doesn't
departs at
exist.
11 p.m.
All
So
right. Okay. Anyways.
I'll never let it go.
but wait, I want to say one thing. This episode takes place in April of 2001. And they are, and I was cognizant of that when they got to New York because, presumably if Jen resolves her issues with her dad, she's going to go to University of New York. But maybe she's not. And when they're on this rooftop, they're in Lower Manhattan. I actually went on Google Maps and I figured out exactly which building they were on.
Of course you did.
Of course
they were
you
right
did.
by the South Street Seaport, and I was like, they panned. There was some like what I thought maybe was stock footage, but I think they actually got their like beauty shots from that same rooftop because you could see down like a weird crooked street, and you could see the Twin Towers, and it was like they were right there. And I was like, where are they? And I was like, I found the rooftop, and I was like, all right, this view actually makes sense. So they did all those beauty shots from there. But yeah, they showed the Twin Towers, and I'm like, and I made a little note, and I was like, 5 months out to 9/11, and I'm like, you ain't coming back there. All this is going to be a moot point in a few months because you're not going to come back here and go to college. Maybe she will. I'm interested to see.
I'm interested to see how they're going to handle.
Think about everyone else who was admitted to NYU or any other college,
University of New York.
Like they all still had to go to college.
Yeah, I mean,
and like continue college.
When I
wait, when do people start college?
August, so
they September.
So they would have been right at the beginning of school.
Right. Yeah, it would have been students would have been in classes for a month.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see how the show handles all these kids. I mean, we can assume.
Will they address it?
Yeah, I mean, maybe they won't.
They have to.
They would have to. It was such a huge deal.
Yeah.
And not just for New York. I mean, obviously for New York, but it was like an issue for the entire country.
It affected the entire world.
Infected?
Affected.
Oh.
All right. So that was just, I wanted to bring that up because they did, while they were on that roof, they showed
the Twin Towers.
I even picked up on that they were the class of 2001. I believe in episode, whichever episode, I think it might have been episode 16 because Drew does some like stupid shit about class superlatives, which he called class polls, about the best couple of Capeside, and then it was Dawson and Joey and not Pacey and Joey.
Did you guys get voted for any class superlatives?
I was class environmentalist.
Ooh.
Oh, I didn't even know that there was one of those.
I didn't. The closest thing that I never got a class superlative, but I do know that I was featured in our senior yearbook. I got like a quarter-page write-up because they had decided that year that they were going to highlight some students who did some.
Thank you, Murphy.
Murphy is assisting.
Yeah, there's an ambulance because I live near a hospital. We're at my apartment tonight.
Murphy gets triggered by sirens.
He's letting us know.
Yeah. Anyways, my high school decided my senior year to like highlight like 4 students who were doing, I guess what you might say are non-traditional sports. And so they chose me because I was a figure skater.
Oh.
That's cool.
And I got like a quarter-page write-up in my senior yearbook.
I was voted class clown.
That tracks.
That tracks.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I was an asshole though. I was so annoying.
Yeah.
And I'm not now.
No, not at all.
You're never annoying.
So not annoying at all. So anyways, let's get back to the topic. So after she's told Joey about this like strange weekend that she had when her mother ditched her at the train station, she goes back down and she confronts her dad, who's like passed out in his
with like cognac,
his like smoking chair.
He's got a cigar and his cognac.
He has like a glass of cognac and he's passed out and like kind of sweaty.
And she like wakes him up and she starts talking about this like one evening where she has come home.
Yeah, that evening. So apparently
this is the issue. This is like the big,
issue that she's been holding on to that she hasn't been able to talk about or like even bring herself to even think about in her own brain, about this one particular evening. And it's where she talks about some girl, and I think I wrote her name down. What's her name?
It was like Annie
or Amy or something.
Annie Leibovitz.
Annie Sawyer.
Yeah, that's
and Annie Sawyer was older than Jen.
But not much.
No, so I guess if we're saying that Jen was like 12, 13 at this time period, Annie Sawyer was 17 because Jen said Annie was the age
that I am
now.
Okay.
So
that's
Annie,
what I was getting confused because I was imagining they were around the same age range. And I was like, so you're
okay. Well, hold on.
Sorry.
Annie Sawyer is a 17-year-old girl who lives in the building, and who is Jen's favorite person. So I don't know if Annie might have been like a babysitter or, just like the cool older girl who lives in the same building.
Right.
So Jen has shown up back home, on this one random evening, and
I think it was that evening. So I think that was her reason.
Yeah.
Like her mother was like, fine, you don't have to come with me. And her father thought that
so this is why this is why she spent the weekend out of the house.
Right. So she came home, saw an event, and then left.
Let's get into it.
Okay.
So what Jen sees is like she comes home and she sees her dad engaged in sex with this 17-year-old Annie Sawyer, and it sends Jen off the rails. Like this is like I said, the catalyst that sends Jen into her bad behavior. It had nothing to do with her being a bad kid. It had everything to do with her dad being a pedophile.
Pedo.
Yeah. But I thought he was an actual legit pedophile because I thought that Annie Sawyer was like
A 12-year-old.
13 years old.
Yeah, I thought that too because she was like, oh, she was the same age as me, but she meant the same age as I am now.
I understand now.
Right.
Yeah.
But then that
But even
circles
still-
back to like the weird moment at lunch at the grill that when, he was talking to Joey that way because he's apparently into fucking 17-year-old chicks.
Yeah.
And like,
And then she was like, oh, the bedroom door was wide open and you saw me. She's like, Jen was like, I get it now. You saw me. And that's why you sent me away because I witnessed what you were doing.
and her dad was like, you're totally making this up in your head. That never happened. But then he like quickly admits to what he's done. And I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with this family? This is so messed up.
But his father and mother are still married, aren't they?
I feel like they're that type of like married couple that's like they're married, but they don't live together.
They live separate lives.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah,
Jen's
that's her
dad
trauma.
is a pedophile, which is the reason she started engaging in all these, bad behaviors.
And the reason she was sent away.
I mean, that I feel like that was her parents. Like that's what justified them sending her away. It wasn't that Jen saw her dad having sex with the 17-year-old. It was that Jen was a bad kid. Mm-hmm. And that's what we all thought as viewers, that Jen was like this like slutty 12-year-old doing drugs and shit, when really it was
in reality her dad was having sex with 10-year-olds.
No,
That's what I wrote down. I was like, wait, Jen's dad was having sex with a 10-year-old? I was so confused.
I think it was a teenager.
It's all bad. It's all bad.
To set the record straight, though, he was having sex with a 17-year-old. But still
bad.
Still bad.
That's still bad.
Still bad. So Jen has been able to get this off her chest. She is able to meet Joey at the train station by 11, get back to Capeside, and then she goes back to her therapist and she's like, I'm all good. I'm cured.
Yeah, girl, you're not cured. It's just started.
Yeah.
You
popped the cork. We're just now getting into it.
Yeah, but she was like, no, I'm good now. I did the thing I needed to do, and now I'm all right.
I'm all good.
And then the creepy therapist was like, yeah. Like, there was like a moment when he left, and he was like, I'm going to miss her. He didn't say that, but you could see it on his doughy face.
Yeah, his dough face.
His dough face. He was like, all right, good luck. Good luck, Jen.
Good luck out there.
You'll be back. And
we didn't really touch on this, but this is like the first episode where like Jen and Joey are really like BFFing it up.
Yeah, because they've been frenemies.
They've been frenemies this whole time. Like I feel like this is the first episode. Like we've kind of seen glimpses of them in previous episodes where they're like,
they never hang out one-on-one like
but
this.
Never one-on-one like this. And like Joey was really there for Jen. Like, this was a change of character.
Yeah,
for
she wasn't
Joey.
a complete bitch.
Yeah.
This whole episode.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe she finally took that dump. and then-
She did.
She took the full dump.
She just
Some,
let-
some magnesium sulfide.
Yeah, she was on the toilet for like 12 hours before they went to New York, and she was like, "Woo!"
She's like,
I feel so much better now.
I feel free. Let's hang out. Girl, what are you doing?
So
That's it, right?
so is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So
Well,
I
I'm
guess-
curious to see if 9/11 gets addressed in the coming episodes.
I mean, they're either gonna have to address it, or they mention it, or Jen's like, you know what? I decided not to go to school in New York, and let's just forget that New York exists.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there has to be something that happens that brings them all together to going to the same college, because this series does go into their college years.
Right. So they must all end
So
up at the same.
There has to be
school.
something, yeah, that brings them back all together and has them going to the same school. So I don't know. We'll see. I feel like it'd be really insensitive of the writers and the whole production team and the whole crew at Dawson's Creek to not address 9/11. Seeing
I mean,
as
it was
that
such a-
this show is supposed to be
well, they
staged.
touch on a lot of different like topical things.
I know. Well, I mean,
So how could they not
also
touch
the fact
on
that
this huge?
well, I'm just saying, like, also because this show is supposed to be located in Massachusetts. I mean, that's so close to New York.
Right. I mean, you can just take Metro North down.
exactly. It's right in the Grand Central.
that we'll have. Yeah, we'll see if the show touches on it. Every
It was
other
just such a huge deal. It's like
Well, because-
anything that's created right now in our time period would touch upon COVID, because it's been such a like huge deal in everyone's lives. And 9/11 was such a huge issue.
well,
How
and
could
also
they not?
because every other media, like entertainment, TV, we're all making points to recognize it. But yeah, I'll be interested to see if and how this show is going to handle it. All right, let's wrap this up.
All right. Bye.
Whoa.
I'm done now.
Clearly. Let's do a proper goodbye,
A
please.
proper goodbye with my fam right here, my blood, and Murphy, and Melissa, and Victoria, coming at ya and leaving ya. Goodbye.
Bye.
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 We're Basic Teen TV. Check us out next week.
Murphy's like, are we going home now? Because I don't want to be here anymore.
Okay, bye.
Bye.